Age of Empires Definitive Edition. I can't say that strategy is my favorite genre, but it definitely attracts me from time to time. Since I'm not a big fan of old games, I didn't really consider playing this series. When I was a kid, I remember playing Age of Mythologies and trying Age of Empires 3, but the first Age of Empires was not on my nostalgia list. About a year ago, I replayed the upgraded version of Age of Mythologies and had enjoyed it. And later, I noticed that they made a remastered version of the entire Age of Empires series and got the bundle on sale. First launch, and I was like, wow, they nailed it. Considering how the original looks like, it's day and night difference. Everything is so detailed, except a couple of minor things. Landscape transitions look a little bit abrupt, and the game is kind of flat.
The world is flat!
But it was 1997, so I guess it's a decent excuse. Look how the levels looked back then. It was just a mess of green, brown and blue colors. In remaster, levels look natural. Terrain, water, forests. I believe it's something the nature could have created. They voiced over briefings before campaign missions, and I like the voice of the narrator. He resembles the one from Divinity Original Sin 2.
And the Greeks have been united under you, Alexander of Macedon.
Alongside each briefing, you can find a historical reference. It's cool, you can always learn something new. I, for example, didn't know that the Sahara Desert wasn't always like that. But sometimes these references may be hard to follow because of the number of names and events in them. Despite it, I think people who are interested in history are going to appreciate it. The briefing screen also contains a map depicting your progress. Unfortunately, the text on these maps is hard to read because it's very small. The music is nice. Can't say it's something memorable like in Witcher, but it sets the right mood, and I have absolutely no complaints about it. Now, the major issue with this game is clunky gameplay. It's irritating at first, but later it makes you really angry. Units don't move to the specified location, they rather shift towards it. And it's ridiculous. If you want to assemble your army, you have to manually select units and separately issue move orders. There are also no unit formations. You can say, what you just told us is a unit formation, you arrange them, and they keep their formation. Formation my ass, as soon as the battle starts they will scatter again. Since we're talking about battle, let's talk about pathfinding. To say it's atrocious is to say nothing. I've been reading forums and people say that it's even worse than in the original game. Units regularly stack on each other, choose stupid routes, go somewhere then hit an obstacle and run back and forth.
Yeah, maybe I'm just like a little bizarre little person who walks back and forth. Whatever, you know.
For some reason they prioritize attacking buildings instead of the enemies standing right beside them. And you know what angers me the most? It's the fact that the enemy AI doesn't seem to have all those pathfinding problems. It's like as if it controls every unit separately. But when I issue an attack move order, it should control my units too, right?
You're goddamn right.
Well, it doesn't look like. Priest mechanic is a real dumb joke. Priests can convert enemy units on their side, and the conversion time seems to be completely random. A priest can convert units straight away in less than 1 second, or he may struggle for about 10 seconds and die from the unit coming close and attacking the priest. This shit just makes you abuse save reload, and that's not funny. And the enemy priests work the same way. If enemy has a lot of priests, good chunk of your army may be converted in an instant. Also priests move kinda slow, and I had constantly been noticing that my priests can be easily chased by a villager or infantry, but my fucking cavalry can catch an enemy priest. Again, what's this? Bad pathfinding? But when I click the enemy, the computer controls both my and the enemy units, so I should be able to outrun slower units. The game just feels rigged in this regard. Look how an enemy villager outruns my cavalry, and the only reason he is dead is because he was cornered.
What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
The game has a limit of 50 units, but my god, when I play, it looks like the enemy doesn't have that kind of limit, so often I'm unable to build sufficient number of troops to make a full-scale invasion from the sea and the land simultaneously. This leads to protracted war against AI, where you have to carefully peel the enemy defenses. And I understand that some people may like this kind of gameplay, but there should be alternatives. It's a strategy game after all. Wo ist mein Blitzkrieg? Because most of the campaign missions started to take about 1.5 hours to complete, I dropped the difficulty from standard to easy, but it didn't really help. The game has some lazy programming. In the mission where I was supposed to capture 2 artifacts and deliver them to the marked location, I was able to move the first artifact out of the marked location and then move it back again and complete the mission as if I delivered them both. Restart button sometimes won't restart but will load the last save once the game sneakily set the hardest difficulty. Performance is choppy if you set the details more than 1x, but even if you leave it at the lowest setting, frame rate drops in mass battles. Also, if you set the details higher than 1x, your game is going to be zoomed in. Seriously, in 2019? Whatever. The next big problem is the story. It's split into campaigns where you have to bring different civilizations to glory, but the story and battles are very schematic. The game briefly describes you the events and you play the mission where you're supposed to destroy an enemy base, capture something, or construct a specific building. The problem is that they kind of feel the same. And I know that I may sound strange, you know, all games like that, it's the core gameplay, but no, other strategies I played have memorable levels, but in Age of Empires they lack distinctive features. I guess the reason is the year this game was released. It's not a remake but a remaster of a 1997's game. I think they did all they could. And honestly, this is a problem only because of the clunky gameplay. If the missions didn't take this much time to complete, maybe they wouldn't seem so boring. Also, it's sad that all those different civilizations don't have unique units. It's strange to train hoplites when playing as Egyptian. The exactly same thing can be said about music. The music is good, but it's always the same. In Red Alert 3, for example, each campaign had its own set of music that suited the nation of the campaign. This game doesn't have it. Let's move to the conclusion. Is this game worth playing? Well, what can I say? Let's define the reasons to play a game. Any game consists of 4 key components: graphics, music, gameplay, and the story. This game excels in graphics and music, but the problem is that they almost never play the most important role. For some people, gameplay is above everything else. For the others, it's the story. For me, they're both equally important. I can sit through a garbage gameplay if the story is fascinating, like in the first Witcher or the first Mass Effect. The only exception I can remember was the first StarCraft. I can tolerate shitty story if the gameplay is entertaining, like in Assassin's Creed Unity. Unfortunately, this game is weak from the story perspective. It's nothing terrible, but nothing outstanding too, and it has infuriating gameplay which ruins everything. Let's say this game is worth a try. If you get the entire bundle on sale, then why not? It's not expensive. But if you skip this game, you will lose nothing except suffering. The story is not connected to the next game in any way like it is in Age of Mythologies, or Warcraft, or Starcraft. From gameplay standpoint, most other games would be drastically better. If you're an experienced strategy player, you might like the challenge, but if you are new to this genre, you're better off starting somewhere else. Otherwise, you might get the wrong impression that strategy games aren't fun. That's it, I hope to see you next time.